I'd like to open up the Board of Selectmen's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo. And we are being taped and broadcast on Comcast and Verizon. Being taped by MCCAM. Let's see. Any members of the board have anything under unanticipated? Just to reiterate what Mr. Knowlton brought up last week, the canoe race is May 10th at 11 a.m. at Old Bridge Street.
Would that be the canoe race where they do give
Oh,
trophies?
yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
There you go.
I have two first place trophies, just so you know.
I don't happen to see them.
Well, actually, my kids broke one of them, but I'll have to bring them in, I guess. So, yes, very good. Excellent. Excellent. So, yeah, the canoe race is on May 10th at Old Bridge Street. Start at 11 a.m. Mr. Knowlton, you can start at 12.
We shall see.
Does anyone else, any member of the audience have anything under unanticipated? All right. Announcements and recognitions. Any member of the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Knowlton.
I'd like to thank the Middleborough Friends for their Council on Aging breakfast this Saturday. I know a lot of us went there. It was a great little event as usual. Also, the Massasoit Cleanup Day at Massasoit State Park has been rescheduled for this Saturday. I'm unfortunately not going to be able to go because of a previous commitment/challenge, but that will be a good thing. Also, I was able to go to the Middleborough Cultural Council Grantees Award reception. I know Selectman Dalpy was there as well. It was a wonderful presentation over at the Public Library on Sunday afternoon. It was an opportunity for the Cultural Council to thank their grant recipients. They are given money by the state to then disperse to various local groups. And they were able to give awards to Middleborough on the Move, the Lakeville Arts Council, the Soul Homestead, Friends of the Herring Run, Friends of the Middleborough Public Library, the Fuller Craft Museum, the Middleborough Council on Aging, the Southeastern Massachusetts Pine Barrens Alliance, the Cranberry Coast Concert Choral, and the Arc of Bristol County. It was just great seeing all these groups get up and talk a little bit about what they do and how important this kind of funding is so that they can bring these cultural events to Middleborough. I had a great time there, and I just want to thank the council for all their hard work. And that's all I have.
Ms. Dalpy?
Yes, I do. I was able to attend the COA volunteer recognition dinner on Wednesday night, and I was really awed and blown away, and I would like to personally thank all the volunteers again. Some of those people have been there 27 years, volunteering hours every single week to deliver Meals on Wheels, to work at the COA, whatever Andrea Priest needs them for, they are there, and I'd really like to congratulate them and thank them. I also had an opportunity Sunday to go to the Best Buddies Challenge fundraiser that was at the Boston Tavern. If you don't know about Best Buddies, it's dedicated to establishing a global volunteer movement that creates opportunities for one-to-one friendships, integrated employment, and leadership development for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It was packed. I was so happy to see, and that's the norm here in Middleborough, that we have residents that support everyone and get out there and do what they have to do. I actually spoke with the coordinator of that today, and they raised $5,500 Sunday afternoon. So congratulations to them, and that's all I have.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes, I did attend the COA breakfast put on by the Middleborough Friends. They did a tremendous job, a lot of folks in there. Met a few new people, and it was a great event, a great turnout. I don't know if they had more people this year than last year. They did?
Over 200.
Over 200 this year? So every year it seems to continue to grow, so that's a good thing. That's it. Thank you.
Let's do it.
Couple things. The Middleborough Farmers Market is going to be at Oliver Mill Park starting Saturday, May 31st, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be every Saturday. And also, the police are having a public auction for unclaimed property. And Chief Gates says there's mostly unclaimed bicycles there. And that's going to be on Saturday, June 14th at 9 a.m. at the police station garage.
Anyone in the audience have anything under announcements and recognitions? No? All right. Minutes, I would entertain a motion to accept the regular minutes for
14.
April 14th.
Yep.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And the workshop meeting minutes for April 23rd.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. All right. I would entertain a motion for to authorize the chairman or his designee to sign the warrant for week ending April 26th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. New business. Votes, I would entertain a motion to approve a request by the Veterans Council adjunct to hold Memorial Day activities as presented. Mr. Provencher, would you like to speak to this?
Hi, Paul Provencher, Veteran Service Officer for the town. A couple of things just before that is tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock at the Veterans Memorial Park on the Town Hall lawn, we'll be having the memorial service for Adrian Haynes, who passed away about 10 days ago. Also, we have a fundraiser coming up for the Middleborough Veterans Honor Guard. They do the ceremonies and the rituals at things like Adrian's memorial service and wakes and other activities around town. Over the weekend on Saturday, we had about 70 volunteers show up to help replace the cemetery flags on over 2,000 graves in the town. I'd like to once again thank them for coming out. Then into Memorial Day. Memorial Day this year, we're going to, on the 26th, Monday the 26th of May, we'll be commemorating the 50th anniversary of the start of the Vietnam War. And this seems particularly significant this year since Rolling Thunder had come in front of the Board of Selectmen before the first of the year and asked for permission to put a POW-MIA chair in the town hall lobby, and they received that permission. And we further refined that to present or dedicate that to Sergeant William M. Smith, who was a POW-MIA, the only one that we have in the community from the Vietnam War. So we're going to be turning that chair over to the town on the ceremony in the Veterans Memorial Park on the 26th. So I'm hopeful that the town manager and the Board of Selectmen will be there to be able to receive that. And then the chair itself will be on display at the town meeting the following night for the very first time, because the board approved having that moved to the town meetings on when they're held. Let's see, we're asking for permission to hold the parade on Memorial Day. It'll step off at 10 o'clock. It'll form up on the town hall parking lot. And the route that we'll use is the one we've used over the last couple of years, going out of the parking lot down Nickerson Avenue, crossing over onto Webster Street and down to Clifford, taking a left on Clifford, up Wareham Street, up to Wareham Street, and take a left on Wareham Street all the way up to Everett Square. And then left onto High Street, left onto Oak Street, right onto Center Street, right onto South Main Street, and back to the Veterans Memorial Park, where we'll have our ceremony starting around 11 o'clock. And that's that part of the event. Also, the Veterans Council asked for permission to hold the ceremony at the Veterans Memorial Park at 11 o'clock. And the VFW does their poppy drive leading into Memorial Day, and they'd like permission to do that from the 22nd to the 26th. They'll be around town selling the buddy poppies. And we would like permission, let's see, to put a sign on the town hall lawn 2 weeks prior to Memorial Day, letting the community know that we'll be having the ceremony on the 26th, and also a sign going up at the intersection of 105 and 28. And we've done that for the last bunch of years, also denoting Memorial Day being held on the 26th. That's my presentation to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. You said your Veterans Honor Guard is going to have a fundraiser, but you didn't tell us where or when. Or
Well,
what it
that's a
was.
fine how do you do. We'll be having it on the Friday, the 16th of May at the VFW. It's a spaghetti supper. Tickets are $10. There's a number of veterans in the community that have tickets in their possession, me being one of them. So if anybody wants one, please get a hold of me at either at my office or on my home phone.
Okay, to sign on the town hall, you have to go through the town manager's office,
Okay?
and we have nothing to do with the corner of 105 and 28,
Okay.
so.
So be it. So on the other issues, I request permission of the board to approve this.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Anytime. Okay. I would entertain a motion to set the summer water management mandatory water restriction effective immediately through September 30th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Anybody have any comments? Charlie, you
This
want
is
to
what we
speak?
do every year. This is required by the DEP to have our Water Management Act permit.
Washing cars on odd days, even days, that type of thing.
Exactly.
All right.
What we always do.
All right, can we get that, the restrictions posted
We
online?
will definitely do that.
I have a motion and a second. Any more comments or questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. I would entertain a motion to approve of the renewal of a secondhand junk dealer license for Autumns at 29 Center Street as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All the taxes and everything are paid up?
Yes.
All right, anyone from Autumn's here to speak to this? Nope? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Vote to approve a secondhand junk dealer's license for EcoTot at 51 Center Street as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anyone have any comments or questions? Same thing, all the taxes and everything's good?
Yes.
All right. Anyone from EcoTot here? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, I would entertain a motion to name Judy McDonald custodian of 122 Center Street, Middleborough, Mass., and to authorize her to auction the property.
So moved.
Second.
Charlie, we're naming her as custodian, as in charge of the assessor's office?
Well,
or
this
the
is-
treasurer's office?
And this is a technical matter that council has advised in order to make sure that, putting it through the auction process has your authorization, basically.
All right. Anyone have any comments or questions on that?
How come, this is like the first time we've done this, isn't it?
It's been a while since we've done that, and I'm not sure we did actually take this vote the last time. It's been 4 or 5 years since we've actually auctioned the property. I can't remember if we took the same vote, but council just feels more comfortable when we do that.
Okay.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Now we're going to, as a board, vote for the annual town report cover, which we have 4 examples in front of us.
Yes.
And I'm not really sure how we should proceed as far as this vote. Do we pick them up and critique them, or? however you would like to do it.
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move we have number 4 as the cover and number 1 as the back.
Second.
You
I
know
have a
what?
motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Should we show the folks back home what we're talking about?
Sure.
I love number 4, it's just that it looks like dark shadows or something, you know? Yeah, no, it fits in, actually. We could have the unicorn in the spine, that would really do it, you know?
If we're gonna have lantern tours out front in the fall, and we're gonna have paranormal
true.
investigations,
We might as well go out the whole route, yeah?
I hope on the report itself we can attribute the artist.
give
because
the
we don't
credit
have
where
the-
credit is due.
Yes, exactly.
I would entertain an amendment to that motion.
Sir?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right. So we have to vote on the amendment and then the motion.
Roger
So,
that.
Anyone want comments or discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment of adding, of giving credit where credit is due for the artwork?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes unanimously. And any more discussion on the selection of number 4 and number 1 for the front and back cover of the town report? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Do you get
And
to
this-
name do we know the artist's name so we can get him out there right now?
Yeah, it's not on here.
I mean,
I don't
you
see
know,
them on there. This was meant to be a blind test that you couldn't, pick favorites. You know.
well, I just thought that, you might have, you have in
unfortunately,
your vast knowledge base have knowledge of who number 4 and number 1 are, because that would be nice. We could just kind of get that out there, and maybe the New York Art Museum would want to.
We will make sure that we get that for you next week, and you can give the young artists
I
credit.
think we should.
We
I think
absolutely should. Yeah.
They did a nice job on that.
Very nice.
They certainly have a lot of creativity that, I can only applaud them for it, because I don't have a creative bone in my body, so to be able to do that that's really good stuff.
You might have noticed in Ms. LaCroix's memo to you a couple of suggestions that you might want to take under consideration next year if you want to continue to do this. That you might want to select one school to run the competition at a time, just so that it's sort of an equal footing, that you're drawing from all high school students or all middle school students or all elementary students. And the other, that you might want to develop a theme and give the students something to think about and to be creative about. So just a couple of thoughts for you and for your consideration going forward.
We could make creating a theme one of our goals for next year.
Yeah, that's right. It could be a goal. Anyway, thank you.
So Jackie, could you put town report artwork cover on the agenda for like late August, early September, so, because I certainly won't remember that from now till, all right. Congratulations to lucky number 4 and lucky number 1. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the special town meeting and the annual town meeting warrant as presented.
So moved.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, shouldn't we review those first?
No, remember, we're reviewing and having hearings on them next week, where we hear all of them. But these are the articles that have been submitted to be on the warrant. And then,
Well, one of
then we
the
have a
items,
hearing on them.
one of the items is the police station study, police station funding,
Correct.
but there's no number. We have to have a number in there.
We didn't have until this afternoon. We will have that number, and we put that in the warrant.
So when we approve this tonight, it'll go out with a number.
Yeah, the number is $12,130,000. several $100,000 under the estimate. And so when you vote the articles, or vote the warrant, it'll be with that amendment, with that number in there.
All right, good, okay. Thank you.
If we, and I'm not sure if this is the proper procedure, but I'm pretty sure that, and I'll check with you, Charlie, if we don't like something on this special town meeting warrant, at town meeting, we can make a motion to table it.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. Right. And if there was anything that you didn't think should be on it, we could certainly discuss that tonight. That's certainly fine. But, primarily it's the, the routine articles, 5 or 6 articles up front. It's the capital recommendations, it's the CPA recommendations, and, then there are a couple of bylaw articles at the end, and the petition article that you've already heard about. So that's how it breaks down. A couple of zoning. We have the amendment to the WRPD. We have a drawing of some of the wellheads, the new wellheads, the new wells. We thought we were going to have a street acceptance. That came off. And we took off the recycling equipment because we're not ready to do that.
Okay.
All right, so I have a motion. I need a second on the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the town manager's recommendation for a 2% cost of living increase for non-bargain employees.
So moved.
Second.
Charlie, you want to?
We tend to do this just before town meeting. We've been doing year-to-year contracts for the last several years with our union employees, and therefore we extend the same cost of living increase to non-union employees. So there's a listing here of who's covered in that, and several of the budget recommendations that I've made to you in the next vote reflect those increases.
Okay, does anyone have any comments or questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I'd entertain a motion to vote on the town manager's revised budget recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
So just to summarize, we have about 8 departments where the changes relate to that vote you just took on the cost of living. We've made changes to debt service, employee fringe benefits on unclassified. In debt service, adding some additional debt service in the water department budget. It also had to be in the debt service budget. We've changed the workers' comp and property and casualty insurance amounts, and that changed the fringe benefits and unclassified lines. I added a line item for wellness, since we're going to have to do wellness programs on our own now. They won't come through Maya. I took that money out of the FICA budget, so I didn't add anything new to the budget. And we just had a meeting of the forecast committee earlier. I'm recommending the increase of $300,000 for the school department budget. Remember, we reduced the snow removal budget and the mitigation article in order to fund that. They've also chose to reallocate some of their transportation money to the school department budget. I've made that recommendation as well. Therefore, we reduced the transportation budget by $50,000 that went into the school department budget. The water, wastewater, and trash enterprise funds were primarily changes in the indirect costs and the offsets that had to then be reflected in those budgets. They weren't big changes, relatively small changes, but when you change the benefits or the insurances, then you have to change the enterprise fund budgets to reflect those changes in the other budgets. And then the last one, the highway budget, is the reduction in the snow removal account. Also in the water and wastewater budgets, I put their capital requests into the operating budget itself because the operating budget has sufficient revenue to support those relatively small capital requests. One was for the additional hydrant work for the water department, the other was for motors for one of the pump stations in the wastewater department. So although you'll see those also listed in the capital report from the Capital Outlay Committee, I put those into those budgets directly.
So we don't have those. So we'll be eliminating them from the capital plan?
Well, there won't be an article to correspond with them, they're just in the budget. And and then in the Council on Aging, we had agreed to look at a couple of positions which we ended up upgrading, and that's, that was the increase in that budget. And, with that, we are effectively balanced. I gave you a forecast that went with these recommendations, and we're ready to go to town meeting with this.
All right. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Knowlton?
So Charlie, where does that put us with the school budget?
Well, if you look on the summary that I gave you, John, earlier, which is revised, which is right to your left.
Okay.
So you can see that. We were discussing that in the forecast meeting a little while ago. We're still about $700,000 apart with the school department's budget that they voted, on their budget. The transportation budget is the same. We have the same budget there. The only difference is in the school department budget. And when you see the detail, when the Finance Committee makes their recommendation and they break it out among the 5 or 6 categories, the difference is primarily in salaries. Every other category is the same.
All right, so it's still not budgeted to what the school department is asking for.
We just don't have those kind of resources. The only thing I said I do tonight is, when we get the final enrollment numbers on healthcare, if there's a significant change there that frees up something that we might be able to modify the recommendation, we'll look at that. I don't expect that, but that's the only other place that could significantly change the bottom line.
All right, so my last question would be, this is the budget number that's being proposed.
Right.
And when this gets approved by town meeting, then the school department's going to have to revise their...
Yeah, either they'll, and that's up to them to decide what they want to do, but either they would revise before or after town meeting, but they obviously would have to revise it at some point to reflect what town meeting decides.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anything from the audience? Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. 7:30, we are going to review the annual town meeting articles. I'm going to start with the police station building committee.
You want to start?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Board of Selectmen, and the general public. I'm here to give you a brief presentation on this police station renovation and addition. Before I start, though, I sort of wonder what Fletcher Clark would think to have a device like this on top of his lectern.
You might wonder what your name was.
What's that? Right, what my name was?
Yeah. Who are you?
He probably knew that. Sorry, my name's Ted Ayers.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Okay, this project is no secret to anybody in town. It's been ongoing for a period of time. As you know, all right, how do we go back? There we go. You're all familiar with the current police station. You are familiar with its historic roots. It was the Peter H. Peirce General Store, built in the early 19th century. It is one of the only remaining Greek Revival period structures that remains in the town of Middleborough. The North and South Main Street used to have many Greek Revival structures, and one after another they've all disappeared. The Damascus House, the Martinique, the old Cooperative Bank building. In fact, my house was located where the Unitarian Church is now. You know that the Peirce store gave way to the 4th District Courthouse and the Middleborough Police Station in the 1930s. Again, this was in certainly a different time and place. And now it presently houses 39 sworn officers and 4.5 civilian staff. And it clearly is an antiquated operation. Okay. Try that one. There we go. And again, I think we've mentioned this before, but the existing facility is simply not compliant with any local, state, federal, ADA, or any health codes. And bear in mind, as a police station, this is sort of a high-stress area. This is, in a sense, the problem center for the town, if you will. This is where lots of things go on, which require split-second decisions, and that have to be handled in a very professional manner. And needless to say, the existing facilities that you'll see simply don't support that kind of activity and are inherently dangerous to the officers working in the space. Now, again, I realize you can, most of us have been on the opposite side of the photo on the left, and this is what you look out at. It's no secret that if a person is arrested in the town of Middleborough and you happen to be standing at the counter, they're going to be brought in right by you. It's just not a safe thing to do, given the nature of criminal minds, of deviant behaviors. It's a very risky thing, not only for the public but also for the officers. Again, you can see what happens when you have a space that is simply too small for the operation. Things get piled up. And this is not a housekeeping issue, this is a space issue. You look at the photograph on the bottom of the attic. That attic, I assure you, was not meant to carry that amount of weight in terms of paper, boxes, etc., etc. Once again, you see this, it's frequently, it's all over the place. There is no relief from this. Now, all of you work in situations, and I think you can understand that working in the Middleborough Police Station, if you're an officer, if you're a clerical worker, is not a lot of fun because you're tripping over things all the time. The staircase you see on the left is what every officer carrying a prisoner has to go down to put that prisoner in a cell. Needless to say, since many of the individuals brought into the situation are in one form or another impaired, that's a highly dangerous situation. Once again, if you look at the jail cells, I will say the town has a more primitive set of jail cells in the basement of this building, but they are from the 19th century, and I assure you don't comply with any codes. Again, if you notice, the office spaces are just hopelessly overcrowded and subdivided. Last week I was in the old courtroom, which is subdivided into offices. And again, it's just like there's no space for any kind of proper organization, even thought process for that matter. Most police stations now have sally ports, which allow you to bring a prisoner into a space in a patrol car. 2 garage doors go down, the prisoner is taken from the car, and is, number one, he's processed in private. Number two, it's a secure space. We have none of that. the police car pulls up out in front of the station, hauls a person out and pulls them in the door right next to you or I. Again, it's a situation that, because it's gone on so long, perhaps you can say, well, that's the way it is, but it isn't the way it is, and it isn't the way it should be. You see the red mat at the bottom of the stair. Well, I guess you know what that's for. So if someone goes tumbling down, they don't get a concussion. Once again, it's just, as you would say, it's not the way to run a railroad, and it's dangerous. Again, if you look at the systems here, please note the historical, I repeat historical, buzz fuses in the fuse box. They're not even breakers. Again, it's like you're looking at something which is a flashback in time, but this isn't about historic in terms of preservation, in terms of running a police station. The building may be historic, but certainly the systems cannot be, and they are. Again, asbestos on the pipes, you know, raise your hand if you think that's a good idea. Oh, okay, sorry. Again, you look at locker rooms, improper ventilation, no decontamination area for officers in case of exposure to bodily fluids. You have a unisex men's locker room. Again, these are things which are just hopelessly out of date. Again, if you look at what we have, these cells are non-compliant. Now, I suppose you can say out of sight, out of mind, since I personally have never seen the inside of one of those cells. But speak for yourself, Al. You're smiling. Well, I haven't. I've come close, but that was another time. It was after a 4th of July parade, to be exact. Anyway, we have a situation here where we have prisoner cells which break all the rules, and we are not immune from being held accountable to those things. Some of you are aware of the fact that the Bridgewater State Hospital is being sued by inmates at this point, claiming about their conditions. I assure you that anyone who visits these cells could have an action against the town if they so choose. Again, any slip-up, anything of any sort, and the town's liable. The chief has told you many times before that it's an accident waiting to happen, and it truly is. You can say, well, it hasn't happened yet, but you know, Murphy's Law is out there. It will happen. It's time for the station to be renovated. Okay, so what is required? You get an idea here of the way in which police stations have evolved, spaces have evolved, so that the processing of prisoners, the processing of interrogations and such is done in an orderly manner with adequate space and protection for both the officers and those accused or those in detention. You know, you look at, again, if you look at what's required here, as opposed to on the left what we have, I think it speaks for itself. We're required to have separate cells for male and female prisoners, and we don't. Again, if you look at the difference between what we have, now I admit the Scott's lawn fertilizer spreader possibly isn't in there if there's an inmate. But again, you can see, and this is, again, any prison detention area is required to have basic things for the protection of those in custody. Now, the question is, how did we get here? And it was a long road. If you look at the date 2004, it's about the longest running committee I think we've had. We basically tried to come up with a proper location in the town. We examined a lot of potential uses. But along with this, and this is something which you can't lose sight of, it's fine for us to locate a police station at X location, let's say, away from the present one, but the existing building is still going to be there. And the situation in the town of Bridgewater, I think, and this has to do with the committee's thinking about renovating this space as opposed to simply building a new building or taking over another space in town. The town of Bridgewater built a new police station. I'm sure you've all seen it, out on Route 104, I believe. and they vacated the old Academy building right in the center of downtown. Well, that's fine, and the new station is great, but what about the old building? They are now faced with an $8 million expense to basically renovate that space for customers they know not of. They can't let the building be torn down. Again, it's a flagship in the center of town. They can't let it deteriorate any more than it has, and it has been deteriorating. And it's a building of an age where it does require a lot of maintenance. So they may have built their new station for X million dollars, but they now have an added expense for another 8. So having to do with our long journey looking at various sites and coming back to about 2 years ago, examining the concept of taking the existing station, renovating that, preserving the historic facade, and then building the command center, the cells and the important technical parts of it in a new building to the rear, was for us a way to sort of basically solve all the problems involved and limit the costs. I read some time ago that the new police station was a Taj Mahal. Well, ever since I could vote in this town, every building that was ever built was a Taj Mahal. And that was the argument that was thrown against it. It was too lavish, there were too many offices. Well, if you look at the slides I've just shown you, frankly, a double-wide trailer in the middle of West Virginia would be a Taj Mahal in comparison to what we have. So this is not a Taj Mahal. This committee did not undertake to build this building with any thought toward making it lavish. We continually beat up on the architects, and they show the bruises, to keep the square footage down, to keep the cost down. And this was an ongoing process, and it's working. We seem to be getting bids that are even under our estimates, so all of that's good. We have addressed historic preservation factors in this building, the importance of its facade, the importance of the Pierce General Store opposite the Pierce Public Library, adjacent the Pierce Homestead. This is an important historic area. This is an important historic building. The plan we have preserves the facade, preserves the 1930s courtroom, renovates the rest of the space, builds a new structure to the rear. These are all compartmentalized, and they all, oh, did I get unplugged? Fletcher, don't fail me. And they're all important components of this, but again, I hope you can appreciate the fact that all of these things work together to create a very cost-effective new police station with a renovated existing space. Again, you can renovate space cheaper than you can build new space. So we were able to get an advantage to that and then have all the important facilities in the new area. Okay, we looked at, again, and this, I won't go into too much detail on this. If you look at how we figured the square footages here, you've got the addition, you've got the renovation, and you have an outbuilding to the rear, total of 28,666 square feet building. Now, these floor plans are probably all but indistinguishable, but if you look at this, this is the existing sort of basement of the existing building and the first floor of the addition. Excuse me, basement of the addition. Here's the first floor. To your right, you can see the Sally Port, again, allowing the proper processing of prisoners. You can also see in the center section, which is the old courthouse, that space has been basically preserved and is available for not only police use, but for public use. Again, if you look at the facade of the building, the offices are in that portion. So we've basically relegated things that can be relegated to the existing space, while, again, at the bottom of the slide here, you can see all of the efficient new space. In the center of this space is the dispatch area. This had a lot to do with how we organized this building, because police staffing is so small that a person in dispatch, if there is a problem in a cell, and unlike times 100 years ago, there are problems in cells, and they're not always local people that are in them. and the officer has to run to the aid of someone, he can do it. There was some discussion about having more of the dispatch, let's say, up in front, closer to the North Main Street side. Again, it puts the cells a long distance away, and that 15, 20 seconds can make a big difference. So the dispatch is located in the new section, along with, again, all of the important police functions. This means that the new entrance is on the Jackson Street side rather than on the North Main Street side. Again, it was done in the interest of efficiency and to conserve the amount of space we needed to build. And again, now you have the upper level here. You can see we have nothing in the existing building, and we have some offices and that sort of stuff in the new addition. The site plan. Again, you can notice on your left, you can see the North Main Street facade of the building, the T-shaped building. You can see the rear addition in the deeper shade of purple to the rear, and you can see the outbuilding to the far right. There's been discussion about the amount of space we have taken from the parking lot. Again, we've tried to minimize that, and we feel we've successfully done that. It's been a challenge to do it, but based on the fact that much of the area right back of the police station is used by police as well, the loss to the general public is minimal. Here you have perspective views, miracles of videos and why you can never trust a photograph again. You can see the new building has already been constructed and is sitting there, and the cars are driving by it. The grass is green, everything's great. You can see how it looks from the, I guess it's the old Dunkin' Donuts, right? The historic Dunkin' Donuts, which is no longer there. Looking across at the building from the south. And you also see it from the fire department side. Now, because this is the facade, is a historic facade, there was discussion about how to build the rest of the building. And I will take some responsibility for that. The idea being to make it related to the structures that were there, but different. That's important when you're dealing with historic structures because you don't want to try to imitate what's there. But pragmatically, we use different building materials, more modern fenestration, so that we have an efficient and maintenance-free building when you're through. And that, again, is an important concern. This is not an entirely wood-clapboard structure. And here you see a view looking from Jackson Street toward North Main, and again, looking across Jackson Street at the existing courthouse on the left, the new entrance in the center, and the new facility on the right. The outbuilding, again, you see this, we try to minimize this and minimize its impact, but it's a necessary ingredient in this program. Again, we tried to make it blend so that it didn't take away from the historic museum or the playground next to it. Okay, project cost, and I'm going to turn this over to Neil Rosenthal, who can talk about the project cost, the impacts, and why it makes sense for the town. Thank you very much.
Neil Rosenthal, 78 Cedar Street. I'm a member of the building committee as well as the capital planning committee, so I have a pretty good idea of the town's finances. But before I get into this, I want to talk for a minute about why this is a good deal for the town. I need to convince you and the people of Middleborough this is a good deal for the town, but it's a very easy thing to do because it's obviously a good deal. The new addition in size is extremely economical. The program, which you saw sort of outlined in the pictures of the jail cells, the dispatch area, et cetera, the materials, the kind of structures so that the police are protected, the public access parts, the program drives the size of the project. Now, normally speaking, from what we can see in recent years, the average size building for a 40-member police force, which is what we have, is 600 square feet per officer. That would take you to 24,000 square feet. This, obviously, the new addition, which is by far the most expensive part of this project, is 15,000 square feet. The cost of building this building, the actual cost of building the project is about $9,300,000, of which the renovation to the historic building is $2.4 million, or about a quarter of that. So in terms of the size, we've put all of the intensive functions in the new addition, and we've, as I think Ted more or less pointed out, kept the less intensive functions and the parts of the police station that could function in the older part of the building in that building. The fit of the new addition on the lot is adequate. It leaves most of the public parking spaces, which of course many of them were always used by the police. We're removing the fueling depot for the town, so that's going to open up a little more. So in truth, we're only losing somewhere around 10 or 12 parking spaces overall. Now, the historic building, the impact on the lot, if we didn't use the historic building, we really couldn't build it there because it would take up the entire lot. We probably wouldn't even have adequate parking. So this plan that we've come up with clearly reduces impact on the lot. And obviously, as Ted says, it kills two birds with one stone. It both renovates a historic building for a very reasonable price, $2.4 million, and it gives us a 21st century police station. Now, the truth of the matter is that what we're doing here is less expensive than if we did either one standalone, and I want to emphasize that. If we were to build a new police station without the historic building, under the most economical framework possible, we're talking at least another 4,000 or 5,000 square feet at 3 times the cost that we're spending on the older building. Now, while the older building is in effect 10,000 square feet, we're really not totally renovating 10,000 square feet. What we're doing is renovating the main floor of that building. The cellar portion of that building will be largely storage and utilities. And the upper floor of the building, which has ceiling height issues, will be horizontal mechanicals. So while we are, in effect, renovating the building and fixing it so that it will last 100 years, we're repairing some of the external deficiencies to the building, such as removing the dormer. We in effect, are doing everything in our power to keep this cost down. And so the size of the station is a little deceiving when it says that the total project is 28,000, whatever it said on there, 26,000. In reality, we're probably actually utilizing around 20,000 square feet of that building, plus the area for the mechanicals and the utilities. Now, we did consider alternative sites. We considered the Wood Street site, and when we were looking at that, it would have been an adequate site, but you would have had a lot of site development. We would have had to pave the entire thing on and on and on, get it ready. And as we sat there looking at that site, which had nice access to Route 28 and a back way out, and was adequate in size for a modern police station, the folks kept telling us they didn't want it there. And because they wanted the police presence to be downstairs where it always has been. Well, 40% minimum of police business is in the downtown area. And the downtown business district is in the downtown area. And by maintaining the police station downtown, you're constantly bringing the police back into the downtown, whether they're changing shifts or they're just coming into the station or whatever. The chief, in fact, is very committed to maintaining it downtown. So once we decided that maybe the Wood Street site wasn't the place to go, we looked at downtown sites. The site we looked at most intensely was the hospital site. We also looked at the CP Washburn site, but basically dismissed that because it was next to the tracks, and potentially you could have a disaster on the tracks, which would have incapacitated the police department. But the hospital site we looked at very intensely, and the cost of renovating that building would have been astronomical. And in fact, it probably would have ended up demolished in order to build this type of police station, and the site work would have been much, much more than we have now. So in truth, what we're doing is spending less than we would in any other scenario. And I know this flies in the face of the notion of some people, who some people think we should tear down the old historic building and build a totally new police station there. Some people think we should build it somewhere else. Some people keep coming up with every building commercially that comes vacant. People say, well, why don't you build it there? Well, in no case would it cost less than it is going to cost us, because this police station is extremely specific in terms of what has to go in there and how it has to be built and to meet all these criteria. We simply have to spend the money we're spending. There really is no way to do this today and spend less money. And in doing it the way we're doing it, we also preserve probably next to this town hall, the single most significant historic building in downtown Middleborough. Now the question comes, of course, why should we do it now? This has been a priority since the 90s. We didn't do it then. We started to look at it in the early 2000s, and when we were looking at the Wood Street site, and we didn't do it then because of financial problems. And well, sort of the demonstrated need to have this has sort of come to a head, as Ted so aptly pointed out, with the fact that the existing station is woefully and totally inadequate and in need of a lot of repair. If we don't do this now, we're going to have to spend a lot of money on the old building, and that's just to continue to use it in this capacity. By doing the renovation now, we fix all of the weaknesses in the old building without spending additional money on it. We're never going to do it cheaper. Costs just keep going up. From 2004 to now, they've gone up by about a third, even with the depressed times. So if we don't do it now, it's going to cost us a lot more later. And right now, we can get the best interest rate imaginable. We'll probably never see this kind of interest rate again, so we almost have to do it now. Now, the town meeting has supported us on successive town meetings to go ahead with this, and that's the voice of the people. So it's not just this committee, you know, coming in here and deciding this is now that we have to do it. It's actually the people of Middleborough speaking through their town meeting. The last major town meeting funded all of the design of the building, over $600,000 to bring us to this point. So town meeting clearly believes that the time to act is now. In the last 20 years, we've done some major projects in downtown Middleborough. We did the fire station where we had a collapsing floor. We did the town hall, which went from embarrassing to inspirational. I think everyone agrees this is the most beautiful building in the area. And it really has helped with the rejuvenation of South Main Street. People take more pride in their property because of this. I firmly believe that this historical character of this town adds to the value of the town and fundamentally brings in a class of folks who appreciate that. No one, I think, would argue that we ought to demolish a historic Sandwich, and I don't believe that anyone could seriously argue we ought to demolish historic Middleborough. We've also done the Nichols School. We got rid of an educational nightmare there. It was totally inadequate to handle the junior high school kids. And I think everyone thinks that was a project well done. And then we renovated what used to be Memorial Junior High School to the Early Childhood Center, which is an open school, warm, a lot of sunlight, and educationally more than adequate for our needs. And we saved a beautiful building in doing so. Now we get to the financial situation, and as you can see, it's going to cost people $126 the first year. And then it goes down over 30 years until the last year. It will cost, let's see, $59. But we are getting rid of debt exclusion on the Nichols School. That's going away. And that was close to $100 when we started it. As I said, when I listed these other things that we've done, I don't think anyone would argue that all of these things, it was great that we did them when we did, because clearly we couldn't do them now for the same kind of money. I think when we did this was like $3.6 million. Try that now, what it would cost us now. It's only a few years ago. The same thing, I didn't even mention the building on the Four Corners, which serves as town offices, that we did for just over $1 million. The fire station projects, doing the one downtown and getting the bonus of the one in North Middleborough was somewhere around $3 million. The Nichols School that we did, we got 79% reimbursement, but it did require a debt exclusion. And now we're going to be asking people to put up some money to accomplish this in Middleborough. And frankly, we've never been casual in this town about asking taxpayers to pay more. I, for one, fully understand the personal sacrifice that's involved in constantly being asked to pay more money. Now, I'm a businessman in this town, and I am one of the larger taxpayers in this town, so frankly, this is going to cost me more than most people. And I don't think anyone has ever accused me of being a flagrant with money or a big spender. So if I'm for this, I think most people could arguably agree that it's probably financially the right way to go. And I fully believe it is, and I hope the people of the town will support it, and I certainly hope the Board of Selectmen will support it. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be willing to answer them.
Any member of the board have any questions? Ms. Delphi?
Mr. Chair, could someone address the, where the courtroom is now is going to be a community room and an educational room? Will that be available to the town other than the police station to use?
It will be if I can figure out how to go back on the slide. Everywhere it's in yellow. Everything that's in yellow will be community use or public use. It's not, if somebody went in there, they wouldn't be able to access the rest of the town without being escorted or bussed in. Anyway, everything on that slide in yellow, as they explained, you come in from Jackson Street. So that training room, which we don't have now, and we need, and we're centrally located, and I preach that we need a training room for 40 officers, not all the time our officers, but if we host training, which we would have trainers from around the country come in, and if you host the training, you get free seats. A lot of these trainings are expensive. They charge $500–600 for a 3-day training seminar, and if you're the host, you would get 3 or 4 seats for free if you're going to seat 40 people. So this, we're the only building in the town of Middleborough that's open 24/7. You can walk in at 1:4. We're the only one. And this would be available, this yellow area, you know, an emergency, anytime.
Community groups or other departments in the town, community groups could come in and use it?
Yes.
I've seen the pictures. It will be beautifully restored, so the public would be able to enjoy it. That's the point that I'm, and appreciate it.
Part of the reason why we went with the architectural firm that we did, because one, in my opinion, which was important, was they've done a lot of police stations. 2, which a lot of the other members of the committee that were on the historical, they were concerned about that aspect of it, because this is solved in drawings. That firm, from Castle Booths, they've done a lot of that work too. I've been in places that they've done, and they do good.
Mr. Jim?
Mr. McKinnon?
The chief. This, the community room is, or the training room, if you would, is actually going to be the second level from the entrance. Is that correct?
This
there'll be
room here is currently what we call the administrative wing. It's the old courthouse.
Yeah.
When you go in there now, it has a drop ceiling, so we can save the heat, but that ceiling in there actually goes up to 2 floors. That yellow part, most of that yellow part, well, the training room is in the existing building.
If people come in there at night to use that, they're going to come in through the Jackson Street entrance,
Yes.
and then there's obviously got to be
Yeah,
elevators,
if
so
we were
forth.
going to allow someone to use that at night, they come in where the general public does. That's why in this setup, we avoid the issue of having prisoners marched by all your civilians. But they just could come in here and it's all self-contained, that yellow area.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? I got Do you have some?
How close to that 12.1 million is it reasonably expected to finish up at? That's the absolute
Yeah,
number.
we received bids last Friday, so we have a bidder that, you know, is well-known and qualified. So that 12.1 number is based on actual bids. So that is the upside limit of this project. We have some contingency built in, but, you know, it is a renovation, you need some contingency, but that is not an estimate, that is based on actual bids.
That includes change orders?
Correct, that's what the
To the
contingency is for.
best of our ability.
Yeah, that's why we have a contingency in the event of a change order.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? Because like I said, I have a bunch of them. I'm going to be here a while. All right. So you said the committee was initially formed in 2004?
Yes.
But in 1995, the police station was identified as the capital planning committee as the #1 priority?
Yes.
All right. You looked at the old St. Luke's Hospital
Yes.
site, and now that site's actually being renovated from a hospital to a healthcare facility for about the same price, for about $12 million, right?
I don't know what
I believe it's $10 million
to go from a hospital to a hospital.
to a hospital.
So it's
yes.
pretty easily imaginable that it may cost more to renovate from a hospital to a police station.
Yeah, it was definitely more.
I would make that assumption. And you looked at the Winthrop Atkins building when it wasn't raining?
Yes.
All right, because that's in a floodplain, correct? A 100-year floodplain? It's one of the many issues with that site?
That was one of the issues we had with it, and the foundation towards the river was already settling and cracking and things.
And it's not a police station?
No, it's not a police station.
All right, and you explained about Wood Street. Interest rates we spoke about briefly, they're not going down.
I don't think I don't think the interest rates have ever been like they are now. I wouldn't expect it to.
It's pretty, yeah, it's a pretty good guess that they're not going to go down in the foreseeable future. And construction costs, I work in commercial and residential construction. I don't think they're ever going to go down again either, myself. Mr. Sullivan, at the meeting on last week, you actually spoke about, could you give the example to the public about the model school and the difference in price?
I'm Joe Sullivan from Davis Projects. I'm the owner's project manager for the town. I actually was hired by the town to oversee the entire project. The example in the discussion that we had was recently in the town of Fairhaven, we built a model school, and it was roughly a little over 5 years ago. That school actually, the cost came in at $16 million. The town of Fairhaven saw the need to build another elementary school, so they went through the model school program. They solicited proposals, got another contractor involved, and actually built the same square footage of that school, a model school, identical school, 5 years later, and it was $6 million more in 6 years, roughly 5.5 years. So that same school that was $16 million ended up being almost $22 million 6 years later. So it just shows you that the costs aren't going any lower. And one of the other examples is in 95, 96, what would you have been able to build this building for? My cost estimating team looks at it, you probably would have done it for half. The difference between building it now and 6 or 10 years ago was there was grants out there at that time. And you know, there was federal grants, there were state grants that were willing to actually help the contribution towards these. Those are no longer in existence. Homeland Security is getting 99% of all the funding available to protect our country, obviously. So grants are not even accessible right now. They're not even out there to be entertained. So at today's prices, and I was doing some cost escalations and trying to figure out where we sat, like other police stations. I've done a couple over the last couple of years. And based on the prices that we've recently got on the bids that we received, we're at $332 a square foot. A typical average off-site built over the last 4 or 5 years has been closer to $400 a square foot. So we're saving roughly $70 a square foot building it today with the proposals that we got in. So as everyone's indicating, you know, you can wait but just remember, it's gonna cost you a lot more later on, going that route, and now's the time to build it. We actually, if we hadn't gotten the bids and I didn't have numbers in front of you, I wouldn't feel as confident as I do right now. We have the temporary facility built into our price, so we'll be relocating the police department downtown in a local area, renovating and putting the addition onto it, and then moving them back in within 14-month period.
14-month period is the window?
That's the goal.
How long will this police station be adequate for the town of Middleborough?
We typically build for 50 years.
And does it have the ability to expand again?
Yeah,
if need be?
well, part of the requirements as we challenge the architect and our team is to build future space. And, you know, part of that future space is whether it's on site for future location of additions if needed, if the force increases or spaces within the building that can be reutilized for different allocations of space.
Now, is there, you have a 911 center or a call center in the building?
That's correct.
Would it be possible in the future to house a regional 911 center in that space? It would. Beautiful. I assume you're going to be as energy efficient as possible?
Yeah, actually, part of the designs that we do, we try to build, I mean, will it be a LEED building? Probably, you know, it'll be qualified from, typically, we'll go for grants from utility companies for payback. I recently finished a police station in West Tisbury, and it was not a large police station, it was around 6,000 square feet. We ended up getting $36,000 back on rebates because of the energy efficiency and lighting program that we put in. So we build them for, you know, high efficiency and long term.
All right. Actually, my next question was, yeah, LEED certified. And as green as possible?
Absolutely. We try to, you know, the specifications and the design tries to get as local materials as we can so that we keep the recycling and everything into the building, you know, as green as possible.
And do we have any type of local preference for hiring for contractors?
As far as utilizing, the general contractor has the ability to hire local firms for whatever services are needed throughout the building.
All right. That's about it for me for now. Anyone else have any questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have another one that you spurred on. You have 39 officers now and 4 civilians, approximately, Chief?
We're at 40 right now.
Okay. And that's...
We have four full-time and 1 part-time.
And that's below what actually the state would suggest or what you should have?
The national standard would be at 53.
Okay. So you have room, should we get money falling from the sky to expand? Exactly, to expand. Yes, you have room to expand now, once it's done.
It's designed to have civilian dispatch.
Okay. Because Selectman Frawley asked if it would expand in the future, how long, 50 years, but we could do that from the get-go. We could fill it to capacity. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Knowlton.
spurred a question for me as well. This, the total price, is there built in any bonuses or penalties for early or late completion, kind of like the tunnels up in Boston?
There's no bonuses for getting it completed early. We work, you know, as part of my job and part of the architect's job, we work as a team, not necessarily, you know, in conjunction with, like, working together as a combined effort, but we work together as a team with the general contractor to make sure that the building is built as quickly, as effectively, and built to the specifications that we currently have. We do have liquidated damages of $1,000 a day for every day that it extends over the 14-month construction period. Now, part of the liquidated damages, obviously, you have to incur costs, which we would be if we were renting the facility temporarily to move them back in. So we typically don't give a bonus to try to get the building done sooner than that. It's in the best interest of the general contractor to get it done within that 14-month period or sooner to save on general conditions overall. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does.
Nobody else has any other questions? Nobody in the audience has any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Ayers?
Not a question. Not a question. I was going to make a motion, but we have a question, so I'll wait.
Yeah, in closing, I'd just like to say that this is a really important thing for the town to undertake at this time. And this committee cannot do it without the support of you, the selectmen, of the general public. We need to vote for this. I feel we made an adequate case this evening to show you that we've tried to do this in a very efficient way. Everything that we do in the town of Middleborough, we do, how do you say, on the cheap. We try to squeeze as much as we can, and we certainly have with this project. I hope you can agree with us that the time has come to upgrade our police station. And this is the time to do it. We have everything going for us. We have this thing has gone out to bid. The bids have come in under our estimate. And we are excited to see this go forward. And again, but we can't do it without the support of everybody that's listening to this, and even those that aren't, because this has to go before town meeting, and it has to go before a vote, for the debt exclusion to pass. So I urge you all to support this. Thanks.
Charlie, can you just walk the board and everybody who's watching through the process of how we're going to go from this meeting to town meeting to the ballot?
Correct. It requires both a town meeting vote, and that's a 2/3 vote at town meeting because it's a borrowing. Town meeting is May 27th, a Tuesday this year, right after the holiday, right after Memorial Day. And then it also requires a vote at the ballot box, what's known as a debt exclusion override. It would allow the town to override Prop 2.5 for the purpose, and only the purpose, of paying off the bonds for this project. And as Mr. Rosenthal mentioned earlier, a $12.13 million project would cost in the first year approximately $126 to the median family homeowner, the median family home being $311,000. And again, that the attractive feature about debt exclusion votes is that as the debt service gets paid off, that amount comes off your taxes, and that amount goes away as the bonds are paid off. So it is not permanent. It's not a permanent tax increase. It's a temporary tax increase. So that vote is scheduled for Saturday, June 14th, and should the project pass both at town meeting and at the ballot box, we would be able to move forward and build this project.
All right. Mr. Rosenthal?
To the town manager, Charlie, could you explain to the people who are listening why we can't just fund this through normal town finance?
Correct. The first year's principal and interest payment for this project is nearly $900,000, and that is just not an amount that we're able to fund within the operating budget. Our Prop 2.5 increase in any given year at this point is $856,000. It's not even. It would not even cover the first year debt service on a project of this size. So it's just not within the town's means to fund this within the operating budget, and that's why a debt exclusion is needed.
Okay, I know, Ms. Lopes, would you be kind enough to talk a little bit about the CPA? I know you have a joint meeting on Thursday, or at least a meeting where you're going to discuss what's going to happen with the CPA on Thursday.
The building committee is requesting $500,000 in CPA money over a 10-year period, and that proposal has been built into the borrowing article, so that if it's recommended by the Community Preservation Committee and approved by town meeting, then $500,000 of that $12.1 million would come from CPA money at the rate of it's being requested of the CPC, it would come at the rate of $50,000 a year for the first 10 years.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Mr. McKinnon?
To Charlie, the 4% interest rate, is that the rate we're going to get, or are we going to get a better rate?
Well, you know, that's up to the markets. That's what our financial advisor is suggesting that we budget and project at this point in time. So that's what we're doing.
That could be less than that, then.
Theoretically, it could be.
Because
you know,
we've
all
put out
depends.
bonds, we've been putting a lot of bonds out recently for 1.5%, 2%.
Correct.
Smaller
Although
amounts.
short-term borrowing is less, and that's what we've been doing. But you know, we're just trying to be prudent and conservative, and we don't want to, you know, overpromise and perhaps understate the cost. We'd rather be a little bit more conservative and say, okay, if it's 4%, then this is what we think it's going to cost people, and if it comes in less, then so much the better.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst. You won't be disappointed.
Right.
Anyone else have anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McKinnon?
I'd like to make a motion to place a ballot question for debt exclusion for $12,130,000 on the June 14th ballot for the purposes of funding the police station.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
Yes, to Charlie, do you have the proper terminology for the exact wording? It's very exact and specific wording for that ballot question.
I can read it. It says, shall the town of Middleborough be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to pay costs of constructing additions and renovations to the police station, including but not limited to the employment of professionals and equipping and furnishing said building and all other costs incidental and related thereto.
Okay, they never put the cost in there, do they?
You know, that's one of the things that is not included in the ballot question. It will be in, as we discussed earlier, will be in the town meeting article, you know, but because it's debt service on an amount, and you can't really be sure until you go out to borrow what that debt service is, you can't put it in the article. Okay. You can only describe it the way this article describes it.
Okay, that's good. So that will be what the people see when they go to the ballot box. Should the board vote yes on this. Okay.
I have one more comment, question for you, Charlie. So this amount, this debt exclusion, is solely for the construction of the police station. There are no salaries, no bonuses, no benefits associated with any town employee in this debt exclusion override.
Correct. It's purely for this project only. It's only for constructing and, you know, equipping and furnishing and providing temporary space. And
we're not creating any more?
No, nothing to do with hiring employees or paying benefits or anything of the kind. It's purely to borrow money to improve an asset, and that's all it's for.
Okay. Does anyone else have any more comments or questions? Anyone in the audience have any more comments or questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I would entertain a motion to send a letter of support for the police station renovation and addition project to the Community Preservation Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Norton.
I'm very glad to see this letter going to the CPA, and I'm glad to hear from Ms. Lopes that they're considering some funding for this. I think it's very important that we show the town as a whole is behind this. So, very happy.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McKinnon?
somebody's got to play devil's advocate here.
Why not
happens if Hey, what the hell, the black cloud follows me everywhere I go anyway. What happens if the town elects to disband the CPA committee and tax?
I don't think we can if we do this.
Well, the town can vote to disband CPA at any, with the proper procedure, town
Actually, they
meeting
can't.
vote and all that.
It's after the first 3 years, I believe. They can't do it just at any time.
Yeah, they can.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
I believe it's
Rosenthal?
after 5 years. And my belief is that whatever debts have been incurred would have to be honored.
I'm Mo Franco, treasurer for the CPA committee. I did look into this, and according to the Community Preservation Act that's part of Massachusetts state law, if the town does choose to eliminate the CPA surcharge, then we are required to follow through with the commitments that we have put forth at town meetings. So, for example, if we chose to fund this project for 10 years out as requested, we would have to honor that commitment. And then when that commitment was ended, we could end the CPA surcharge.
I asked that question because I'm sure somebody was thinking that out there. That's, we're putting $50,000 a year for 10 years, which is a good piece of money, so what
That's a
ifs?
good question, and we're on the hook for it.
There you go. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any more comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. That does it for number 8. So number 9. Hi, how you doing?
Good. Steve Morris, Chairman of the Capital Planning Committee. And I know several of you have been on the committee before, and one is currently on, so most of you are familiar with our operation, but I wanted to give a brief overview to the people watching. Before I start, though, I just wanted to let you know that the committee has voted to support this the police station renovation and expansion, and we are sending a letter to the CPA committee. We toured it last year. We spent a couple of hours there, and that's all it takes. And we talked about that here last year. Just anybody that takes a tour of that building will know within the first 20, 30 minutes that it needs to be replaced. So we unanimously support the renovation and expansion. But to get back to our committee, our members are made up of myself, Link Andrews, Alan Frawley, chairman here, Glenn Cannon from the Finance Committee, Neil Rosenthal, who is here tonight, Charlie Costello, the town manager, and Andy Martinson, former town manager. We are now going into our third year of this committee being back together after a couple of years of being dormant. We start meeting in around December when Charlie puts out a request for capital needs. And we meet about every couple of weeks up until, whenever town meeting is. So we're starting to wind down now. So for 4 or 5 months we meet. We get back together in the fall for the fall town meeting, and we meet for 2 or 3, we have 2 or 3 meetings then, because that's a much shorter agenda, fewer articles, and we have a pretty good idea now what's going to go on that. So we get together again, and we've had pretty much the same members, the core group, and we get along well, we work together well. We like to go out now and visit the sites. This year we went out to the fire station. We had our meeting there, toured the equipment. The DPW had a meeting there, and we met with the water, the sewer, and the DPW heads in the DPW building and looked at the equipment. We went to the schools again this year. This year we went to the elementary complex. Last year we were at the high school. And so we toured the bathrooms and looked in the hallways, in the classrooms, all over the place. Looked at the facilities. We went to the park department on about a 25-degree night. We were down there. touring the buildings and the equipment with a flashlight. And then in addition to that, we've had Link Andrews go out and make some solo visits on our behalf to the library and to the Nichols School and back to the elementary school. They look specifically at boilers and burners and air conditioning, things like that, where he has a little bit more knowledge and then report back to us, and he takes pictures on his iPad and brings them back. So he's been very helpful doing that. When we started this in January, we, after Charlie puts out the request, we, for capital needs, we received $4.3 million in requests. And then after about a month of meeting, we had that down to about 2.7 million, then down to 1.65, and we're coming in tonight at 1.45. We actually were a little bit lower than that, but we had some unexpected failures in some equipment, so we're back up. We were a little under that. We're at 1.45 now. That's pretty evenly split between the school and the town. We have about 717,000 for the school capital needs and about 35,000 for the town capital needs. So evenly split, coming to a total of 1.45 million. And if you look at if you have this grid, I know you have that, you can see on the left, on page 5, 250,000 of that's coming from the tax levy, 811,000 from borrowing, 390 from free cash, and that makes that's the funding for our request. So I'll start with number 9, which is the article number 9, which is for police cruisers and portable radios. The cruisers is an ongoing program that goes back to Chief Warner, where we replace 2 or 3 cruisers a year. Last year, I believe the Pierce trustees may have paid for that, the cruisers. These are a 2002 and a 2008 vehicles, and they come in at a total of $66,000. And the replacement of 7 more radios, which is the final phase of a 3-year project we've been doing on the radios. We phased these in so that we didn't have to have a large outlay at once, and that when they do fail, we won't have to replace them all at once. So these radios are 17 years old, and this is the end of the project. We're doing the same in the fire department too. So if you have any questions along the way, just stop and ask. Stop.
How much for the radios?
$7,000. We've done this again, that's the 3rd year of the $7,000, and that should be it. Should I just keep moving on to the next article? Okay, Article 10.
Well, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to just jump.
Motion to support?
We'll just go through, I think, all of them.
You want to do all the the capital planning, and then we can vote on all of them at once? Okay.
But yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to just jump right in. I'm at a disadvantage because I've already been through this, so I don't have too many questions on it.
Not disadvantage.
Well, I don't have any questions, so.
Article 10 is made up of a replacement of the command vehicle. This is a priority. This has been nothing but a headache. It may be a lemon that we got. It's not that old, 2005. It has 150,000 miles. But we have a copy of all the repairs that were made to this vehicle, every single one, and it totals over $28,000 in repairs since we've had this vehicle. I went through it again yesterday. It's had several fuel system repairs, and by several I mean 10. It's been the fuel system has been repaired 10 times. The front end has been repaired several times, and it's had drivetrain repairs. It's not working. And in fact, in October, November, he had some real issues with it and wanted to replace it then, but we convinced him to limp along until now. So that's $55,000 for that, and it has to be done. And then replacement of the personal protective equipment. This is the fighting gear for the firemen, for all 40 men, which is obsolete, needs to be repaired, and is a priority for the fire chief.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just, I had a person ask me this question, I couldn't answer it myself. The command vehicle for the fire department, what's that used for?
This is what the shift commander uses to go out to the events. So usually you see when there's an alarm, a fire engine, and I think this one's an Expedition, or I forget what.
Yeah, and he wants to get
I think a smaller one.
Smaller one.
Yeah, I think we're looking at
Escape, maybe?
Hmm?
Is it an Escape he wants to get this?
No, I think this is the Explorer.
This is,
Yeah,
okay.
But, this is what the shift commander responds to, along with the crew in the fire apparatus.
Charlie, he carries a lot of the maps,
So the back is all
various
filled up.
equipment that he might need to
Right.
set up an incident command post.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The back
That's what I
of it is-
figured it was, but I just want to make sure.
Right, and you'll recall last year, we funded a similar vehicle for the chief so that, he's got similar equipment in his vehicle in the event that he's got to run the incident, and it's similar to what the shift commander has.
Okay, thank you.
Question? On the personal protective gear, that's just the turnout gear, the coats, the pants, the boots? Does that also include Scott Air Packs? Is he replacing any Scott Air Packs at the time, or is it just the, maybe, well, probably wouldn't have to replace the helmets?
Didn't we do the self-contained breathing apparatus last year? So I don't,
It's just the turnout gear, then,
Yeah.
basically,
and we're trying to get that on a, some type of,
rotation.
yeah, there we go, that's the one. Cyclical. But, so yeah, I think it's just the gear.
Okay.
Article 11 is made up of 3 items. $92,000 for a mower at the Park Department. That replaces a 17-year-old mower, and they do a lot of mowing. They mow anything that doesn't move, so they're constantly mowing. Here they do the Eddy property. They used to do some at the school. I'm not sure if they're doing that anymore, but they're all over the place mowing. $61,000 for a four-wheel drive pickup with a plow and extended cab at the DPW. This will serve also as a vehicle that can bring, when it's not plowing, with extended cab to bring men to the work site. Instead of bringing 3 or 4 vehicles, we're going to have one vehicle now. They can put everybody in, put all the tools, bring less vehicles to a site so that police, when the site isn't crowded with vehicles, so when the police will have an easier job directing traffic and taking secure of that site. So it'll double as 2 vehicles, and they need a new plow and a new vehicle and some plowing, which brings me right into the next item on the article. It's $20,000 for used cabs and chassis. This is something different we're going to try this year. Instead of replacing, the request initially came in for a sander, it's a truck sander, and it goes for $150,000. The sander is in pretty good shape. It's in good shape. I don't know, stainless steel, but the sander itself is in good shape, but the truck is falling apart. One of them is 30 years old, and it's rotted, and it just takes a beating with all the sand and the salt. And the other truck is a 24-year-old dump truck sander, same issues. And we got to see these when we were down there. So Chris, the head of the DPW, has done this, I believe in Lakeville, another town he's been in, and he's replaced just the cab and chassis. So we're going to try that. We're going to take the sander and move it on to the new truck, save the town, well, these both would have been $150,000, would have been $300,000. We're going to try to do it for $20,000. We'll see how this works. Small investment, we'll see if it works, and if it does, we'll try to do more of it. Because we have a lot of these trucks down there that are old and in rotten shape, and literally rotten, because of the salt and sand. So we're going to try to save this town $300,000, and this will happen soon, so we'll see when next winter rolls around how it works out. But he seems very confident. Chris Peck, who's the new DPW director. Okay, any questions? Article 12, $100,000 to replace a 22-year-old roof with COA that is leaking. $30,000 of supplement money we've already put aside for the COA parking lot. Those costs have gone up, unfortunately, for the asphalt, the gravel, the lighting. We're going to try to do some things down there to keep the cost down, but looks like that's gonna come in around $90,000 now. So we put 60 last year, we need 30 to finish this job, and they need more parking because of the popularity of their programs down there. 24,500 for new voting booths. The town clerk was in and talked to us and passionate about getting some new booths with protective covers. The current booths were made by the Boy Scouts. They're made of plywood. They're very heavy. They're splintering. She feels they're unsafe and failing rapidly, and she wants to get some state-of-the-art. There are only 2 companies authorized to sell voting booths in Massachusetts. You have to be authorized by the Secretary of State. So there are only 2 companies. They come with a 3-year guarantee. They've been very responsive to any questions we've had on the booth. She has tested them. We went to an expo on it and saw the different booths that are out there and liked what she saw. So that's the request for the voting booths. That covers all the precincts and handicap booths at each precinct. $22,000 for an animal control vehicle, another vehicle that's in need of replacement. It's 14 years old, going on 15 years, 200,000 miles. It burns oil, leaks antifreeze, has extensive rust, so this will be for the animal control officer. And I think in that article also is $19,995 to replace carpet at the library. This has been on for a few years. We keep pushing it off, and we're ready to bite the bullet on that. It needs to be replaced. Okay. Article 13, bathroom renovations. You'll see this again at the high school. This is at the elementary complex. We took a look at those. This is to replace toilets if they need it, if they're cracked or leaking, sinks. They're going to replace the petitions. And instead of the metal petitions, these may be the originals down there. Same with the high school. They're going to put these new plastic petitions, secure them. Replace some of the mechanisms in the toilets so that they're low to no flush, and then the janitor comes in and keys it and turn on the water, so there's no more handles to break or to keep on, to tie, however you can rig those to keep the water flowing. So it should cut down on repairs, water usage. They're going to do the floors, and they're doing them themselves. So this possibly, I'm hoping they come in a little bit lower than this, but so that's for 4 bathrooms at the elementary complex. $60,000 to replace the intercom system at the elementary complex. And the reason that this is important, one, it doesn't work everywhere, but in this day and age, if there's ever a lockdown, it has to be heard throughout the whole school. So you can't have a lockdown and make an announcement and 25 kids don't hear it. So that needs to be done. And $25,000 for elevator repairs at the Early Childhood Center. Both elevators have been up and down. Well, wait a minute, let me rephrase that. In and out of service. New pistons, etc. Any other questions on that? Number 14, okay, this is for boilers and hot water tanks. $90,000 for the Nickel School. That is heated with 4 boilers. 2 of them have been down. The new facilities manager has looked at those, said they were very cheap models that were put in there, but they're cracked and they're leaking. And we're down to 2. We want to, could they limp along with 2? Well, they have been, but with the winter, we want to get this done before next winter because, one, if those other 2 go down, or one of them will be in trouble. So we need to replace the 2 that are down. That's $90,000. The next item is the one that came in recently, and that's why I said the bottom line for the capital planning went up a little bit. This is $47,000 to replace 2 400-gallon hot water tanks. One of them is leaking and is out of service. They're both 14 years old. We've decided to just replace both of them. The other one will go soon. And there's an issue on getting the original, the one that's leaking out. It's in a bad place. We can't get it out without removing, whoever put this in, you can't get one out without removing the other, believe it or not. I've asked the question 15 times, so I guess I'm convinced now, but...
Sounds like somebody from the construction trades decided on that one.
But these are massive units, we're going to replace them, and this may come in a little lower. We're still in the process of doing all the legwork because this is so new. But we think 47 should cover everything and maybe a little less. If there is less, we certainly, we keep on top of these articles every year, and any money that's not spent, we grab it and give it back to the town.
Mr. Chair, if I, quick question about the boilers. So they said they had put in not a very expensive, a cheap model that just broke.
Yeah, that's what the facilities manager said. It's cracked. 2 of them are cracked and leaking. So
Yeah.
we're going to replace those 2, and these are the boilers, not the burners, by the way.
Right, the boilers.
And then we'll see what happens to the other. If the other 2 stay running, fine. Then we have 4. We can maybe rotate them. But if one goes or another one goes, then we'll have the 2 new.
And they're replacing them with a different model.
Yes, they're going with, I believe, Smith this time.
Okay. Because those are, they should last decades, shouldn't, I mean, if you put in a good one? Yeah.
Well, you know, I thinking of my own home, yes, but I don't know, you know, I don't.
That's what I'm
industrial use,
asking.
I'm not sure. You would think longer than this.
Yeah? Thank you.
Cracking is not a good thing. when it
No.
comes to boilers. Article 15, 4 more bathrooms. This is at the high school. Again, these bathrooms take literally a beating, and so we had this request last year. We just put it off. Looked at them again this year. Well, we looked last year at the high school. We looked at the elementary complex this year, and then they need it. $20,000 for new lighting. We talked to you about this last year. We gave them some money to start this project. This is because the bulbs are no longer manufactured. The T12s being replaced with T8, so we're doing new ballast and lighting through the school, little by little. Doing it slowly just in case, who knows, we get some funding along the way, so keep our fingers crossed. And the same with the ceiling tiles. Again, this is going to be the grid and the ceiling tiles, and we're doing a little bit of that at a time, just like we've done the floor tiles, a little bit at a time. And maybe we get some funding along the way, and we can use some of that to finish up the projects. Last item is exactly as it states in the article. It's $175,000 for computers, printers, file servers, LCD projectors, hardware, software, network infrastructure for the schools. We've been committed. This is our 4th recommendation of $175,000. They're doing a great job. They have a great team between the school and the town. Updating the computer needs for the kids. They have iPads in most of the schools now that they can lend out to the children. They have the whiteboards. There's a new technology now for the whiteboards. Hard to keep up with it, but we were behind the 8 ball there. Some of our computers were 12 years old when we started this, so we're trying to get everything replaced. Everything is going Wi-Fi in the schools. It's exciting. They spend the money. They do a good job to report back to us. We have a lot of confidence in the computer team for the school and the town, and so we're requesting another $175,000. It seems to be, they always ask for more, but the $175 seems to keep them on a good pace. They don't spend it, all at once. It takes them a little while to spend it, but they do spend it, so we want to keep them at that pace and keep this going. And this is something that, to be honest with you, we're probably going to see forever. I mean, just talk to any business, university, college, even homeowner to a smaller extent. You just have to keep replacing this stuff. I was at UMass last weekend, and they told me that they replace the computers at UMass Amherst every 4 years. Every 4 years they're replacing their stuff up there on a rotating basis. So that's what's happening out there. And we had 12 years. Granted, it was at junior high, but still, this stuff's now down to the first grade. So this is nothing that's going to go away. It's something we're going to see every year. But, the town's doing a good job backing it. I think we're getting back, getting ahead above water. So there's a lot of catching up to do.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Mr. McKinney?
On your plan, your capital plan,
Yeah.
there was town IT for $137,000?
We put that off to the fall. We're looking at page, where we have software and hardware.
Software, I thought, yeah, IT for the town.
That's for the fall town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and those aren't hard and fast yet. We'll tweak those maybe. So,
Okay.
but we're putting that off to the fall.
Okay.
Anything else?
don't know. Does anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. McKinnon?
No.
Make a motion that we, Board of Selectmen, support Articles 9 through 16, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 for the capital.
Capital
Call
plan?
yourself.
The capital plan?
Capital
That's
plan.
a big word.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? I'll just make one comment. I think it's important to note that the initial request for the capital plan came in at $4 million, over $4 million. And this group of individuals, the department heads come in and they know that they have to have their facts in order, because if they don't, we just send them away and say, come back when you get all the information we need. And they pad it down. We pad it down to closer to $1 million than what it is now, but emergencies necessitated to go back up again. So it's by no stretch of the imagination do people come in and get everything that they want in any way, shape, or form. You know, generally we're pushing them off and pushing them off. They really have to make their case, and that's a testament to Mr. Morris, who chairs the committee. So thank you for that.
Well, Mr. Morris, I want to thank you and the committee, even Alan, I hate to do that, but even Alan, because for years there was no, this money had been stopped. They stopped spending money on this because there were so many other money issues. But a determined group of folks got together, and it was, you know, with Charlie's backing naturally, but this was made an issue. And not just a, how much do you want, here you go. Like Alan said, you've spent time in all these places. You know all of these facilities. You poked your fingers through holes in the sides of the fire trucks. And the chief convinced you it's probably a good idea that this isn't a good thing to have on the highway anymore. And yes, it costs a lot of money. We've been spending a lot of money on capital equipment, but it's been absolutely necessary. And, you know, we're nowhere near where we need to be, but we're certainly farther along than we ever were before. So you guys have done a terrific job. Excellent job on that.
Any other comments or questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, Article 20, Administrative Debt Service and Preservation Project Expenses for the CPA.
Mr. Chairman,
Good evening, Ms. Lopes. How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
How are you?
Doing great.
This is a housekeeping article. The CPA requires that communities spend 10% of their money in each of 3 areas, historic, community housing, and open space. And so each year that percentage is, or thereabouts, that we're estimating is allocated. We also take $13,000 this year for administrative expenses, and that's basically our secretary. Right now it's our secretary, and we belong to a CPA consortium. And the balance just stays in a reserve, so that anybody can see that we are doing what we're required to do by law. Pretty much what that is about.
Anyone have any questions?
One quick one.
Mr. McKinnon?
Where are your numbers posted?
Pardon?
Where are your numbers posted? So in other words, you have so much money put aside in your 10% funds, if you would.
Yeah.
There has to be so much money that's building up over the years, and then there's money the remainder is allocated. Where are all the numbers posted? Are they kept on the?
That information's available on our website. How much do you have? Okay.
I brought the spreadsheet that we have, that we're keeping track of those funds. I brought a copy for each of you tonight. And I believe that's posted on our community preservation website, our
Okay.
CPC website, but I will double check and make sure that that's up there, and I can review each copy this evening.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Knowlton?
Thank you.
on my,
I'll pass it down.
on my presentation here, I have this as Article 19, but it's Article 20 here. Which one is this?
Yeah, what happened here is that in the midst of preparing the warrant, a couple of articles dropped out,
okay,
so
so just need to be
the agenda didn't track the actual warrant, so.
My second question is, this administrative expense, the $13,000, does that include the consultant that you were talking about earlier?
We haven't done anything about a consultant yet, but some of this money could be used to pay for a consultant. We also have talked about allocating for large projects, including an administrative cost in those projects to pay for the consultant.
All right, as I said earlier, I'm not hugely in favor of adding administrative costs, especially when you have a committee. That's what the individual members of the committee should be doing, in my opinion. But,
Well, I mean, we need to have a secretary, like you do.
right. But no, one of the things you were talking about was a consultant to oversee the management of the different projects.
Right, because as you get into this further, we don't have a whole lot of projects going on right now, but we could conceivably have 5 or 6 projects going on at once. We try to get everything wrapped up within a fiscal year, but it's not working out that way, so we could very well have 5 or 6 projects going on. And we want to make sure, this is taxpayers' money, we want to make sure that everything's being done the way the applicants tell us initially that they're going to do it. We want to make sure that they're getting their reports in on time. We want to make sure that that if they say that they're going to use the money to replace windows in a building, that gets done. And so as the thing gets more complex, it's not going to always be possible for the committee members to be keeping track of all that. Of course, we take responsibility, and we spend a lot of time. Each of us spends a lot of time on these projects. But we just want to make sure everything gets done correctly, and this consultant could conceivably be helping people with their step 2 applications, which can get very complex with large projects. And with that, we would be sure that we're getting the right information, that we're able to make good decisions. And finally, this consultant could be looking for grant money so that we're not spending all the taxpayers' money on a given project, or we're spending less, and some of it is being supplemented with grant money. And, yeah, sure. And we're not talking about spending a lot of money on a consultant either. When you consider we're taking in $250,000 thereabouts a year, that we're talking about maybe spending $12,000 on a consultant.
Right. I want to see the money, the tax money that's collected, be dispersed. I don't want to see it go to administrative costs.
Yeah, just to answer that question a little bit, I mean, the law outlines that we are allowed to allocate up to 50% maximally of what we collect in CPA funds every year. So that's why we put $13,000. That's 5% of what we project to collect in total. And then at the end of the year, whatever is not spent from that administrative fund gets put back into the fund balance. So it's not a fund that continues to grow. It's basically what the law they have outlined is very reasonable as far as what they expect a committee. And if you look at our sheet, I mean, by the end of fiscal year FY15, we'll have just under $1 million projected that we're managing, and potentially it's $1 million worth of projects if we're allocating projects and keeping pace with what we're collecting. So $13,000 or 5% of a total allocation every year. It's not a fund that's growing, it's limited to 5%, and that monies that we don't spend get put back into the fund balance. So I think it's not an unreasonable, because I do agree with you, it's not something we want to be spending, that's not where we want to ideally be spending the bulk of our taxpayer dollars. Certainly needs to be project-based, but it's not an unreasonable number, and whatever's not spent gets put back into that pot that gets to be utilized for that purpose.
Yeah, that's a big point. Anything else?
I think if you can get a consultant to find a matching grants to help with the project, I think that is money well spent. Because one of the reasons I supported the CPA in the beginning was the idea of matching funds and how the CPA allows us access to all these other funds that are out there available only to people with CPA. So I don't share that thought that it could be wasted money on administrative if it has the potential to add more money to a community project. So I like the idea of a consultant who knows more about this than a group of volunteers. As volunteers, we need to lean on our experts as much as possible. So. Anyone else? Mr. Halpin?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. McKinnon?
that piece was actually Article 19, which wasn't listed on our,
It was listed on our paperwork as Article 20, I
yeah,
believe.
we have Article 20. Did you combine the two?
No, let me just explain. The recycling and trash equipment article, we dropped out because we weren't going to fund that. So that changed all the article numbering after it. And while the articles themselves are now correctly numbered, the agenda is incorrectly numbered. So Article 19 is actually Article 20. Article 20 is actually Article 21 on your agenda. So that's the difference.
Well, okay. So what I have on my magic box here, because I'm slow, is Article 19,
right,
which addresses the appropriations of 13,000, 26,000, so forth.
Correct.
Right?
Although on your agenda, that's,
yeah, is to vote to appropriate 12,000 for the Community Housing Resource Reserve of the CPA for $8,000. And I believe that would be preservation project?
Yeah, but that's the next article.
Yeah.
We have to get through.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is Article 19 wasn't listed on this, and Article 19 is listed here.
Right,
And
so
if that goes out to the public, we have to vote on, we have to make sure we include a vote on Article 19 to support it, is what I'm saying.
I would entertain a motion on Article 19 as it's listed on our magic boxes, as you say.
Yes.
I motion to recommend. Do you want to do it now?
Better to say actual warrant as opposed to magic box.
What was that, Jackie? I'm sorry?
On the actual warrant.
On the actual warrant, not the agenda.
You're going to do them all together, or you're going to wait?
Ms. Franco has the actual figures for this year on what we're taking in, CPA money if we look this year.
Sure.
Numbers that we put on that warrant article.
All right.
So for that particular warrant article, the treasurer is projecting that we're going to be taking in around $217,000 when we levy the 1% surcharge. The state projects every year in March, the state gives us a number for what they expect to be able to provide in the ways of a match, and this year they're projecting a 23% match. So that would bring the match to around $50,000. So then when you look at our statutory buckets, that's how we arrive at the numbers, the $26,600 for each of those statutory accounts where we're required to allocate or spend 10% in those three accounts. That gives us the $13,000 for the 5% administrative, and the remainder of what we're anticipating to collect is the $174,200. That's how we arrive at that. And just for a point of note, this year we received more than what we were expecting, which is why we have that article on the special town meeting warrant article. And the House has recently passed their budget, and included in their budget, they have set aside $25 million in a trust fund if it's available to do what they did last year. And because of last year's trust fund allocation, we received a 52% state match as opposed to the 24% that they were expecting. So hopefully if the Senate comes out with their budget and they keep that in there, that we'll be receiving additional funds above and beyond 23%, but stay tuned for the second budget.
Thank you. No, that was all perfectly clear. Any more comments or questions?
I don't think so, but later.
All right. I believe I have a motion
Again,
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. So we'll talk about Article 20 on the actual agenda.
Okay, Article 20 is a proposal to continue a project at the Nemasket Apartments. And this is part of a larger project of improvements over there. Last year, we allocated some money to replace windows, and this year, we're recommending another $20,000. And Joe Rupert is here if you have any specific questions about that project.
Anyone have any questions? Joe, do you want to get up and tell us a little bit about it?
This year, we're asking for $20,000 again, same as last year. In total, we received about $1.3 million in grants from Mass Housing Partnership, CDBG. The town got some money from that. We're doing street work, sidewalks, gas, electric lines. The Housing Authority is putting in new siding, and this is paying for the windows. Another grant is doors. We're doing a lot of work over there and trying to have it all tie in, so beautification project. But bottom line, we're preserving the affordable housing for the elderly.
Anyone have any comments or questions? No. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to support Article 20?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Article 21.
Ms. Rupert is going to handle Article 21 since I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Soul Homestead. I'm not involved with it.
So the Soul Homestead is looking for funds, and we've supported it to do historic renovations on the property in the barn, the woods shed, and the farmhouse. Mainly windows, roofing, some siding, some foundation work, and it is all eligible under this.
Anyone have any questions or comments? No? I would entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend Article number 21.
Second.
Comments or questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. And the final article, the Community Preservation Committee recommended has to do with the green school. As you know, this is another ongoing project, and there has been a lot of support for this from a lot of places. And the Green School Committee came to the CPC this year asking for our support, the town support, to finish this project. If you've seen the school, it's been almost totally renovated. The exterior of the building is beautiful now. It looks the way it did many years ago. And that's thanks to a lot of private donations and work that, money raised and work done by the members of the committee that's headed up by Lincoln Andrews. And so this would finish the interior of the building and make it usable by whoever is going to use it. There are people ready to just probably fight over it.
Does anyone have any questions? I would entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend Article number 22.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Town managers report.
Well, the only thing I had, and I don't know, maybe the chairman covered this about the chamber meeting on Friday and the upcoming meeting with Secretary Davey. Did you happen to mention that already?
Not at all.
Okay. So then I will. Last Friday at the chamber offices, there was a meeting, one of their legislative meetings, and 3 out of our 4 legislators participated, and Representative Oro, Representative Gifford, and actually Senator Pacheco showed up for the meeting as well. And at that meeting, he announced that Secretary Richard Davey will be in Middleborough on Friday, June 13th for a luncheon, economic development luncheon, and I believe at that time we're going to hear about the announcement of the task force, the new Rotary task force. So just wanted to let everybody know that that is finally coming to pass. That was in a letter from the senator several months ago, but it is now coming closer to being realized, and hopefully shortly thereafter we'll actually see some new designs and see the project move forward. So if anyone can be available on that day and attend with Secretary Davey, I would invite you to be there. Details to be announced. They're still trying to finalize the location, but it will be here in the park.
It's going to be a luncheon, you said?
There'll be a luncheon.
9, okay.
I'll be attending. Oh, is it that same day?
Yes, it is.
I guess I'll go after.
That's why I asked what time it is.
What else is going?
Democratic
Convention.
State Convention.
That was well planned.
Very unusual.
I know.
Busy week. That week. All right.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, correspondence. Mr. McKinnon,
I
would
have
you like to
nothing
start?
tonight.
Nothing? Mr. Knowlton?
Yes, item 5, we have correspondence from, let me get this to refocus, Department of Environmental Protection. Action taken against Rockland Industries. In 2001, Rockland Industries was charged with creating an immediate response plan, and in 2013, they issued a completion statement, but the Department of Environmental Protection has looked at that and deemed that they have failed to comply with Massachusetts contingency plans and fined them $26,660. And just paying that fine alone does not put them into compliance. They still are going to need to address their completion statement.
Mr. Chairman, Trish Cassidy, our conservation agent, myself, and Tom Sylvia and one of his other engineers met with DEP last week to talk about Rockland Industries, because this has been a sore point in the community for many years. The fact that so little has been done to finish up this cleanup, and while we're very happy to see this letter, because basically DEP is saying to them, enough's enough. We're going to take unilateral action, and that's going to put you in a whole, in harm's way, basically. We talked a little bit about what's going to happen, going forward. Will Rockland Industries, will this compel them finally to do what they were supposed to do and do the additional sampling and monitoring that the state wants them to do to finally prove to everybody that there is no threat from the previous contamination of that site. And while this is certainly good news that the state has decided to kick this into another gear, the owner could still drag this out longer, unfortunately, and could, right,
they can appeal.
And they can appeal.
Yeah.
we did talk about the state actually, taking some additional steps, as they did several years ago when they went in and did some remedial work on their own and billed the owner and actually got paid back from having done that. Whether or not they should do that again, and we certainly encourage them to do that there's a whole round of sampling of the existing monitoring wells that we would just love to see done just to show us once and for all, is anything migrating off this site or not? And that would be a very simple thing to do. What's so mind-boggling about this whole situation is that the cost of complying would have been far less if they had just done what everybody else would have done, remove soil, do testing, close out a site, except that Rockland Industries from day one just chose to fight. Here we are all these years later, when they probably would have spent less money if they had just, done what most normal people would do, which was, comply with the rules. So, we again encourage the state to continue to take a hard line to, if they're not going to get immediate compliance from the owner, to step in, do the work on their own, bill the owner for the work, give us the results we're looking for. Let's see once and for all, is there anything that we need to worry about out there, or has the work that's been done taken care of it, and there's nothing that we have to fear from the site anymore. So that was the context of that discussion. They promised to, as they can, keep us updated about this, and where the the owner is going with it. We asked if we could comment on the plans, if they start submitting plans and start taking action again, that we're in a position to comment on what's being done and make sure that the town's voice is heard on this, and they said they would. So I thought overall it was very positive news. It was very positive that they took the action that they did. Basically, Rockland Industries just committed a cardinal sin. They ignored a deadline. There's no gray area here. It's black and white. They blew it. And now the question is, will they appeal, or are they going to try and get back into the good graces of DEP by putting together a plan that's believable and scientifically sound and gives us the answers that we're finally, and we've been asking for so long. So that was, several months ago or several weeks ago, we talked about sending a letter and trying to get our legislators involved. My tactic instead was to call the regional director of the DEP and ask for a meeting, and this has been the outcome. So,
what about testing in the wells? There's wells all around that site.
Exactly right. That's exactly what we're asking them to do, and we're saying to them, if the owner doesn't want to do that immediately, if they're going to resist you or put up roadblocks or appeal, that you just do it and you bill them, just like you did the last time. Because this is what we need now to know, did that remedial action that was taken several years ago work? And, is there data to prove it? And that's what we need to see. We need to see the data to prove that whatever's there is not going anywhere else. And that's exactly what monitoring those wells and testing those wells will do.
I'm surprised they haven't been more on top of this. I mean, they submitted the plan in 2001, the fine in 2014. The first complaint came in over 40 years ago. And all that aside, this stuff would migrate into Perchade Brook, which is a Massachusetts Wildlife Management Area, which is a tributary to the Taunton River, which is a federally protected road. So I don't understand why it takes 13 years to get I mean, I'm happy with the action that's being taken. I think that they should just go in there, clean. I mean, talk about win-win-win. You clean up a hazardous site, you put people to work, you get us off your back, and you bill. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no downside to that.
It's hard to comprehend why they've chosen to do what they've chosen all these years. They've spent far more money in litigation and,
Well, they did get away with it for
they
years
did.
and years and years.
They did, but, this is not that complicated. It's soil removal and testing. I mean, that's basically what's been required out there.
Sure
And-
sounds complicated, doesn't it?
Well, they've made it more complicated than it is. It's not that complicated.
But I applaud you for calling the director of the DEP, because that seems to be what works. We can write letters and ask people to sign on to letters and things like that, but a call to, is it still Mr. Kimmel?
No, I called the regional director, Phil Weinberg, and, he responded right away, he set up a meeting right away, and they were very forthcoming, very, clearly they're as frustrated as we are, and hopefully we're getting to an end, relatively soon. If we can get that testing done, if they're willing to go ahead and do that testing, we'll at least have some answers in the near term.
And you will have done what 40 years prior couldn't have done. So I appreciate it, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Knowlton?
That would be it.
Ms. Stewart?
Number 1 is a letter from Ms. Barbara Holton, one of our residents, regarding a complaint that she made to the Board of Health on February 20th of this year. I think that the Board of Selectmen should respond in a productive way if we can, whether that's simply a letter to her or she's requesting a hearing about her complaint.
I'll draft a letter and respond.
I actually spoke to Ms. Spalding today about this. They issued the license for this year. They're looking into it. They need to find a determination of the issue. And if I think it's a trailer, if the trailer's still there next year, they won't be issued the license. But they need to find which laws and which zoning laws govern this particular project. We can certainly write Mrs. Holton back and let her know that. I think it's important to remember that citizens don't request hearings. They're not the ones who request hearings. The Board of Health has a hearing. A citizen just can't request it. If a hearing is needed, we'll have one. But until then, we're looking into it. We are looking into it. And yeah, Charlie, if you want to write a letter to that effect, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I will.
And I know she's been in front of the board several times, but, she's one of our residents, so.
Yep, absolutely. We are looking into it.
And that was all I had.
Ms. Dalpy?
Nope, nothing.
Well, that's it for me. And with that, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you very much.